around the clock in good faith to reach an agreement with Democrats on
Can you hear that?
additional China virus relief.
Yeah, right.
Already my administration has enacted over $3 trillion in historic relief, saving
I'm just
many
gonna go
tens
live.
of millions of dollars in jobs. And you see how fast the
Good?
economy
All
is
right.
coming back. It does look like it's going to be a very sharp V. We
He
have
said you-
tremendous enthusiasm, tremendous spirit, and tremendous job growth.
Well, apparently I've been
We
live
set
for
a
7
record
minutes,
on
so there's
number
that
of jobs in the
on
last
YouTube at least.
3 months. It's the most jobs ever created in a 3-month period, during a 3-month period. That's great. Before we begin, I've just signed 2 bills that are great for our vets. Our vets Over are $3 trillion choice, in as you know, historic veterans' relief, choice, and saving
I'm just
many
gonna go live.
accountability. And they've been trying to get that passed for decades and decades and decades, and no president's ever been able to do it, and we got it done, so veterans have choice, and now you have accountability. Enthusiasm, If you don't love tremendous your vets, spirit, if you're in and the VA and you don't love the vets or take care of the vets, you can actually get fired if you don't do your job.
He's talking about us,
We
though.
want people that love our vets. The first expands the eligibility for vets with blindness in both eyes. So we have an expansion of benefits, an expansion of various elements of being and working with the VA for vets with blindness
Yeah, I'm right.
and
Yeah, Trump's also
in
lying.
particular blindness in both eyes. And we have a lot of problems with blindness in the VA, and we're doing something about it. They've been talking about this for many years.
Blindness.
So that is expanding eligibility for vets with blindness in both eyes, okay? Second is requires the VA to establish a treatment court program for vets who need treatment rather than punishment for certain nonviolent crimes. And you know what that all means, and it's really something that they've been trying to get done for a long time. The second requires the VA to establish a treatment court. So this is a treatment court program for vets who need treatment rather than punishment for certain nonviolent crimes, okay? I think it's self-explanatory. We've wanted this for a long time. They've been trying to get it for a long time, and now we have it. And I want to thank everybody for helping us get that done. We had a lot of support from a lot of great people, including people in the VA. In the current negotiations, we have repeatedly stated our willingness to immediately sign legislation providing expanded unemployment benefits, protecting Americans from eviction, and providing additional relief payments to families. Democrats have refused these offers. They want to negotiate. What they really want is bailout money for states that are run by Democrat governors and mayors and that have been run very badly for many, many years and many decades, in fact. You know the states. Everybody knows who we're talking about and what we're talking about. I don't think we have to go over it. But what the Democrats primarily want is bailout money. It has nothing to do with the China virus. It has nothing to do with anything that we've been talking about over the last period of time. They want to bail out states that have been badly managed by Democrats, badly run by Democrats for many years, and in fact, in all cases, many decades. And we're not willing to do that. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have chosen to hold this vital assistance hostage on behalf of very extreme partisan demands, and the radical left Democrats said we just can't do that. So hopefully we can do something with them at a later date, but we're going to be signing some bills in a little while that are going to be very important and will take care of pretty much this entire situation as we know it and as you have been covering it, and in some cases actually covering it accurately. Many of the far-left policies they're pushing have nothing to do, again, with what we have been working on so hard, namely the corona. You can call it so many different names. What a horrible thing China released upon the world. 1/3 of their bill, the HEROES Act, is spending completely unrelated money to the virus. Here are just a few of the policies in their extreme left bill. And again, this is a bill supported by Biden, and Biden is totally controlled now by the Bernie Sanders left wing of the party, and in fact, he's gone further left than Bernie Sanders ever dreamt of going. So obviously, other than
That's
Bernie
a lie.
have brought him left. If you look at the manifesto that they've agreed to, it's far further left than I've ever heard anything about Bernie Sanders. The massive taxpayer bailout of badly run blue states. We talked about that's one of the things they're looking to do. Measures designed to increase voter fraud, banning voter ID. They want to ban voter ID. We should have voter ID in every state. Every state should have voter ID. You have ID on everything you do practically. Everybody has voter ID. Everybody has ID except for voters. When you vote, you don't want ID. They don't want it. We have some states with it. It works out great. And if you want to stop fraud in elections, have voter ID. They want measures designed to increase voter fraud, which is banning voter ID in all states and banning requirements for signature verification in federal elections. Now, why would they want, in this bill, which really has nothing to do with what we're talking about, stimulus, something banning voter ID in every single state? They want to ban it, including states where we already have it, because we have some states where we have it. Indiana and others that do very well. Why would they want to ban voter ID in all states? And why would they want to ban requirements for signature verification in federal election? Who would want a bill banning signature verification? What's that all about? You know what it's about? Fraud. That's what they want, fraud. They want to try and steal this election because, frankly, it's the only way they can win the election. The bill also requires all states to do universal mail-in balloting, which nobody's prepared for, regardless of whether or not they have the infrastructure. They want to steal an election. That's all this is all about. They want to steal the election. So in the bill, they have a bill that requires all states to do universal mail-in balloting, regardless of whether or not they have the infrastructure. Like in Nevada, it's such a disaster. Their infrastructure is a total disaster. They don't want to have signature verification. They don't want to have any of the safeguards that you need. And they don't want to have safeguards that are so common and so basic, and even other states that we disagree with have. This Nevada thing is a mess, but we'll see how the courts determine what the courts determine. But they certainly don't have the infrastructure in Nevada. So we'll see how it is. As you know, we brought suit last week, and we'll see how that all works out. I think we're going to win it. But basically what they're trying to do with all of these requirements, including no signature verification, they're trying to steal an election. And I was in Ohio, I was in Texas, I was in Florida over the last 4 or 5 days, and if you would see the crowds along the highways and the roadways, people have said they've never seen anything like it. And they haven't seen anything like it, and the press doesn't report it because they're fake news. They even want to force states to implement the controversial practice known as ballot harvesting, very dangerous practice, meaning they would allow Democrat Party operatives to deposit thousands and thousands of completed ballots at the post office without any verification of who filled them out, including a verification of signatures on the ballot. So you're not even going to have a verified signature. Anybody, I could sign it, you could sign it, anybody in this room could sign it, and that's going to count as a vote. How can you do a thing like this? So this is what they're asking for. This is what Nancy Pelosi and crying Chuck Schumer are asking for. Okay, it's ridiculous. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing. The Democrat bill includes stimulus checks for illegal aliens. So if you were able to get into our country illegally, and our border is, as you know, doing very well right now. We have a very strong border, and the wall is up to 276 miles. And we'll be completed with it around the end of the year. We're going to do some extra mileage in certain areas that people didn't realize were so bad. So we'll be completed with it right after. We're going to do the additional mileage. We'll do it probably a little bit after the year. I think from what I've heard, Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, wants to rip the wall down. He wants people to pour into our country. They want to have open borders. We don't want to have
Bro, this dude's outlandish.
So the Democrat bill
ridiculous.
includes stimulus checks for illegal aliens. They require the mass release of illegal aliens from detention. They also compel the mass release of inmates, including serious felons. How do you like that one?
How do you like that one?
And this is in the bill that we're talking about. What does this have to do with
Looking at
stimulus,
you,
the
Paul
economy?
Manafort.
What does this have to do with the coronavirus? Know the name? What does this have to do with this? So think of that. They required the mass release of illegal aliens from detention. What does this have to do with what we're trying to do? They want to put this in. This is a radical left policy, so they can go to Portland and try and rip the place apart that they've been doing for many years, and they've been doing for years and years. They also compel the mass release of inmates. What does this have to do with what we're talking about? This is Nancy Pelosi, crazy Nancy, and Chuck Schumer. They want to compel you to do this stuff, and this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, and it includes serious felons. They want to have these people released on a mass basis, including serious felons. That's page 1,689, page 1,762. Think of that. 1,762, and that's nowhere near the end of their bill. They have things in there that nobody to look at or read. These people, I honestly don't believe they love our country. You want to know the truth. In addition to demanding these extreme partisan provisions, Democrats are actively blocking the following measures: support for K-12 schools to help them safely open, additional funding for the Paycheck Protection Program to help millions of workers on the payroll. These are a great program, very successful, kept a lot of businesses open. That's why we're doing so well in reopening our country. Additional money for hospitals, testing, and vaccines. Direct payments of $3,400 for a family of 4. Now remember, this is what the extreme partisans, this is what we're talking about. Democrats are actively blocking the things that we want. And what we want is good for people. These are things that they're blocking. Support for K-12 schools so they can open. Think of that. Also, direct payments of the $3,400 for a family of 4 plus. Then funding for child care and mental health care. And you need that, especially when you have so much of a lockdown. You need that, mental health care. Funding for broadband, airports, and agriculture, rental assistance, and support for community banks and credit unions to help them provide $100 billion in loans to the hardest hit communities, including rural communities and farmers. They don't want anybody to get that. Democrats are obstructing all of it. Therefore, I'm taking executive action. We've had it. And we're going to save American jobs and provide relief to the American workers, and I'll be signing these bills in a very short period of time. First one is I'm providing a payroll tax holiday to Americans earning less than $100,000 per year. In a few moments, I will sign a directive instructing the Treasury Department to allow employers to defer payment of the employee portion of certain payroll taxes from September 1st, and we're actually going to be making that. We just got the word. We're just getting some word from a lot of people. We didn't think we'd have to do this because we thought the Democrats would be reasonable, but they've been not only unreasonable, they've been ridiculous. So we're going to make that August 1st, most likely. It'll be August 1st. We'll let you know the exact date, but we're looking like August 1st. So it'll be August 1st through the end of 2020. This will mean bigger paychecks for working families as we race to produce a vaccine and eradicate the China virus once and for all. And we're doing very good with the numbers. You see it's going down in Arizona very, very substantially and rapidly, going down in California, going down in Texas, going down in Florida. Other areas are propping up a little bit, but we're watching them very closely. We understand the disease, and we're watching them very closely, especially our senior citizens and our senior citizens' residences. If I'm victorious on November 3rd, I plan to forgive these taxes and make permanent cuts to the payroll tax. I'm going to make them all permanent. Now, Joe Biden and the Democrats may not want that. They don't want that because they're adding $3 trillion in taxes. So they'll have the option of raising everybody's taxes and taking this away. But if I win, I may extend and terminate. In other words, I'll extend it beyond the end of the year and terminate the tax.
The Terminator.
And so we'll see what happens. Biden probably won't be doing that. You'll have to ask him. I don't think he knows what he's doing. Second, I'm signing an executive order directing the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HHS, and CDC
Rowdy.
to make sure renters and homeowners can stay in their homes. So I'm protecting people from eviction. Yet you've been hearing a lot about eviction, and the Democrats don't want to do anything having to do with protecting people from eviction. I said, let's do that separately. That could be a totally separate thing from passing along money so people can live. And they didn't even want to protect people from eviction, so they would get evicted. It's not their fault that this virus came into our country. It's China's fault, and came into the world. By the way, a lot of the people, a lot of the states that were doing the best are having some problems. A lot of the states that we weren't thinking were doing the best are doing very well. You look at some of the countries involved, some of the countries that were really standing out as examples are now exploding, but they'll get it down. They understand it. We're dealing with them. We're dealing with a lot of countries. We're providing thousands and thousands of ventilators all over the world right now. We make a lot of ventilators. We've started off with very little, and we're making a lot. And we have thousands in our stockpile, but we're making thousands a month, and we're providing many of them, thousands and thousands, to other countries that would never be able to get them. The Department of Housing and Urban Development will also provide financial assistance to struggling renters and homeowners and work with landlords and lenders to keep Americans safely in their homes. So we don't want people being evicted, and the bill, the act that I'm signing, will solve that problem largely, hopefully completely. The third action I'm taking today will also provide additional support for Americans who are unemployed due to the China virus. Under the CARES Act, I proudly signed expanded unemployment benefits into law. Congressional Democrats have stonewalled our efforts to extend this relief. They even opposed measures that would give bonuses to workers returning to the job. They were totally opposed to that. For this reason, I'm taking action to provide an additional or an extra $400 per week in expanded benefits. $400, okay?
400.
So that's generous, but we want to take care of our people. Again, it
So
wasn't their
generous.
fault, it was China's fault.
Thank you.
States
So
will be
generous.
asked to cover 25% of the cost using existing funding, such as the tens of billions of dollars available to them through the Coronavirus Relief Fund. Under this plan, states will be able to offer greater benefits if they so choose, and the federal government will cover 75% of the cost. So we're all set up. It's $400 per week, and we're doing that without the Democrats. We should have been able to do it very easily with them, but they want all of these additional things that have nothing to do with helping people. Fourth, I'm signing a directive providing relief to student loan borrowers. Earlier this year, we slashed student loan interest rates to zero. I don't know if people know that because the press doesn't ever report it, but maybe they're watching now. The press doesn't report a lot of good things that are good for the people and good for the country. Earlier this year, we slashed student loans, interest rates to 0%, and suspended student loan payments, and Congress extended that policy through September 30th. Today, I'm extending this policy through the end of the year, and we'll extend it further than that, most likely right after December 1st. So we look like we're going to be extending that. They're paying zero interest. And again, not their fault that their colleges are closed down, and not their fault that they're unable to get what they bargained for. Through these four actions, my administration will provide immediate and vital relief to Americans struggling in this difficult time. And the beautiful thing about this difficult time is we're now coming back and setting records. We'll also ensure that our economic comeback continues full speed ahead, and with the $400 and all of the other measures that we're talking about, and we'll be signing in a little while, that will happen. We're further looking at additional tax cuts, including income tax relief, income tax cuts, and capital gains tax cuts. So we're going to be looking at that, capital gains,
I like that one.
for the purpose of creating jobs, and income tax is self-explanatory, and it'll be income tax for middle income and lower income people, but middle income people, because they pay a lot of income tax, and you do have tax inequality. I'm saying that as a Republican. and you do have tax inequality. So we're going to be looking at income tax, and we're going to be looking at capital gains tax cuts on both, and maybe substantial. And we'll be reporting back fairly shortly on that. That's big news. That's big news, but very important. We want to have our jobs flourish. We want to have our companies do great. We want to have the 401ks, which are now at a level, if you look at the stock market, it's great. If you have stocks in NASDAQ, you're higher than you ever were, including, even this is still during the pandemic, the stock market, because they see such incredible things happening, smart people. The stock market is at almost an all-time high. We're just short of it, and NASDAQ is higher than it ever was. It's broken the record 14 times in the last couple of months. So 401ks are doing fantastically. I hope you kept your stocks. I hope you didn't sell. I hope you had confidence in your president and confidence that your president was going to be reelected. And I will tell you this, that the biggest tailwind, the biggest problem that we have with respect to the stock market, which is not much of a problem because it's doing so well, but it would be actually much higher, is the possibility that these radical left Democrats could win. And if they win, we're going to have a crash. We're going to have a terrible problem because they're going to raise taxes, $3 trillion worth of taxes. And that's going to affect everybody from middle income to upper income to jobs to companies. Your 401ks will go down like a rock. Your stocks will go down like a rock. You know, and don't forget, these big companies, you have stocks in these companies. You know, you own stocks. And they have millions and millions of shareholders. And whether it's pension funds or anybody else, you all have stocks. So they're big companies, but a lot of people own that stock, and we want to keep it going. But we do have, I guess you could say, not a tailwind, it's a headwind, I guess would be a better description, but it is, it's a headwind. And when you think of it, that's, in my opinion, it would be much higher. But you look at what they want to do. They want to raise everybody's taxes, everybody. And they want to do the Green New Deal, which will decimate our country and decimate, it's ridiculous too, it's childish. I actually say the Green New Deal is childish. It's for children. It's not for adults.
It is for children to save the world,
Anybody
right?
that believes in that is, I don't know, maybe it's politics. I don't even think it's good politics. They seem to think so. We'll see how they do. But I don't think it's good politics, that it'll decimate our economy. We've learned a great deal about this virus and how to treat it. Our strategy is to aggressively shield those at the greatest risk while allowing younger and healthier citizens to safely resume work and school. I notice that some of the Democrats that I would say are very strongly on the left are now coming out and saying we really have to open our schools for the good of the economy. I was shocked to see a couple of them. You know who they are. We urge all Americans to socially distance and avoid large crowds and all of the things that we talk about all the time. We have to go and make sure that everything's in good shape. We really are. We're coming back very, very strong. We're doing very well with the virus because all of those states that everybody thought would be in a bad position for a long time, they're all coming down. The governors have done a great job. Don't forget, we're dealing with governors. Some have done a fantastic job. All have worked hard. Some have done a much better job than others, and someday, if you'd like to know, I'll give you the good ones and the bad ones. We'll give you some good ones and some bad ones.
All right. How you feeling, Mo?
But
What do you think?
by contrast, the never-ending lockdown being imposed by some, mostly, I guess you could almost say almost all in the Democrat Party, would inflict unimaginable harm to our people and to our health.
All right,
for
Mo, I think
decades
I'm,
to come.
I think I'm good
Yeah,
here.
he's might have touched
They
on
view that as a good thing.
the policy issues.
Let's go to
He's campaigning.
here. All right, so talk for me. I just want to make sure everyone can hear you. Yeah, I think they can hear you. All right. Yeah, I wanted to initially...
Mic check.
Yeah, I think you're good. I think everyone can hear you. So it's funny that he literally just ended right now by saying avoid large crowds, right? So I'm going to play this video. Give me 1 second. Are you familiar with what's going on
interested in one date, November.
in South Dakota? Is it South Dakota? I think it's one of the Dakotas. Let me see. Oh, right here. Here we go. Right, let's go back here. Go ahead and play. So this is happening right now.
The event has been going on since 1938 and is considered one of the largest motorcycle rallies in the world. In just a couple of hours, this is Main Street here, it will be packed. And due to the coronavirus, crews are out here every night sanitizing the streets and sidewalks. But when it comes to social distancing and mask wearing among attendees, it is encouraged, not required.
This morning, an 80-year tradition rolls on in Sturgis, South Dakota, even during a pandemic. On day one of the rally, Harleys at every turn, but very few masks.
You just be careful. You can't not live life.
The city of 7,000 residents is expected to swell into the hundreds of thousands, with tourists and bikers coming in from all across the country, possibly becoming one of the largest public gatherings since the start of the outbreak.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll take precautions and, hopefully everyone will be respectful. We take it seriously, but no reservations. We're really glad to be here.
City leaders say they've prepared for the event by monitoring infection rates and enhancing safety protocols. As for social distancing,
as a municipality in our state, we're fairly limited to what we can do.
So nothing is mandated?
No, it is not mandated, and we cannot do that as a city in this state.
more than half of the residents surveyed in the city wanted to cancel the event over COVID concerns.
I think it's pretty selfish that the powers that be didn't stop this.
We can't block off the entrances to our community. And so on a daily basis, we are getting hundreds or thousands of people saying, it doesn't matter what happens, we're coming to your town.
South Dakota's infection rate has remained low compared to many states and currently has fewer than 1,000 active cases. The governor never issued a stay-at-home order or a mask mandate, and now she's pitching businesses to set up shop with this new ad.
Here in South Dakota, we trust our people. We respect their rights. We won't shut them down.
And so it's full throttle for this legendary rally.
And to prevent any sort of upswing in coronavirus cases here in Sturgis, free testing will be offered to residents 1 week after the rally, even if they are asymptomatic, so that they can quarantine if needed.
Yeah, so, it's ironic that he says, let's avoid large crowds and all this stuff. It's crazy that this man has changed his tune as of late as far as, finally talking about wearing a mask, even though he's at his golf club. I think it's Bedminster, I think it's called.
So it's a big Senate primary.
So he did his, he was at Bedminster last night for like a last minute press conference, news conference or whatever. And it was noted that the majority of the people that were in the audience weren't wearing masks. And even at one point, he kind of like made comments about his crowd being peaceful protesters. So that was like a nice little jab at what has been happening in the streets. So, yeah, I think I'm just seeing like politics at its finest from a man who his entire life was a Democrat, who now just said in a public address to the nation that he runs that as a Republican, he feels like they're, what were his words about the taxes, the inequalities or something like that? Can you hear me, Mo?
Yeah, there's tax inequality.
Oh, okay. He said, yeah, there's tax inequality. So what do you think about the capital gains tax? That's something that you'll probably like want to see. Your audio is delayed. Oh, from me? Give me 1 second. Can you hear me now or no? Oh, I see what's going on.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
How about this? Check, mic check. 1 second. Can you hear me now? There you go. Try that one. Is that one better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly clear.
Okay. Is that better?
I'm still delayed.
Oh.
I've got a 10-second delay, maybe.
Oh, wow.
I want to say 10 seconds.
Are you on you're listening through Skype, right? Watching through Skype, not on through YouTube or anything?
Right.
Yeah, just through Skype. Well, that's unfortunate. So how much of the... Check, check, mic check. Bring me through the thing.
Check, 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 check.
Hear you. Check, check. You're there. Give me 1 second. Check, check. Now I lost audio on the main one. Check. So I should be coming through. Okay, so I'm coming through there. Should be on 3. Give me 1 second, Mo. Let me get this. 3. Check, check, mic check. Is that better audio now?
Yeah, I can hear your audio. I can hear your audio, but I'm still delayed.
Still delayed. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't do anything about that. Why is it doing that? Check. Yeah. Fortunately, I think I have a delay of some sorts on yours. Let's see if I can reroute this to something else for you. Give me 1 second. I am on B3. What about this? Can you hear me now? No? Here, how about you do just call my phone. We'll do this through here because I can hear you through your line and everyone else can hear you as well. We just lost them.
Check, check, check.
I can hear you. I think I lost your...
Check, check, check.
I can hear you.
There's no delay now.
There's no delay now. There's also no video. You want to put your video back on? Maybe it was just your internet at the crib.
No, I think there's that link you sent.
Bad link? Okay, so I will... Let's see if I can get this queued up over here, though.
And congressional primaries in the state of Tennessee.
All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and probably put him back on and let him talk until you get that video back on, Mo. Video back on. I don't know if he's actually... Oh, no, he ended his thing. That was an hour long, huh? You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Can you turn your video on, or it's not working right now?
I'm going to restart the phone.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Just jump on out and jump right back in. Get that situated and get you back here in a second. So let's just go back here to me. So I want to thank everyone for joining another installment of the DA Perspective. Sorry we're having some difficulties right now with Skype and stuff. So we actually didn't really get in. Mo and I didn't do a proper sound check because Trump started his conference like right as we were going to do it. We could hear each other and we're like, man, let's just go live. So we decided to just jump live and just make it happen. But you know, sometimes those things don't go as planned. So let's see. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure, see if I can get them back on. But yeah, want to thank everybody for joining in. It's been a pretty insane 2-3 weeks for myself since I've been last on the camera. And let's see, actually. Okay, you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, is this better audio?
Yeah, there's no delay now.
All right, no delay. All right, let me get you situated. Oh, nope, you're back online there too. So I was just, okay, you're back online. So yeah, I was just thanking everybody for joining again on the show. Haven't been on for a few weeks, been getting a few things together. And that I was telling them how, you know, Trump just went right into his spiel, like right as you and I were doing a sound check. So that was what would happen there. But anyways, okay, so welcome back, Mo. So what I was talking about was, you know, the whole large crowds thing. I showed you the Sturgis video. That's actually happening right now. So what I was saying was it's kind of ironic that as of late, he's decided to change his tone. Uh, Decided to change his tone and his rhetoric as far as like wearing masks and social distancing and all that good stuff. So true politics at play. But from his speech, what takeaways did you feel were the most important, or what struck out to you the most?
I think that, and I think the shift started, I don't know, maybe 30 days ago. You didn't hear it from Trump first. You heard it from Mitch McConnell. And then you heard it from Mike Pence. And then you heard it from Trump. And then the first time you saw Trump wear a mask was when he visited Walter Reed.
The hospital.
So I think it's campaign, countdown time. We're on the campaign trail. And so he hasn't actively campaigned, but this is his way of doing it. Hey, America, this is what I'm doing for you. These are my policies, and this is what I'm going to put forward. I've seen legislation that Bernie Sanders is going to put forward. And it's in contrast to everything that Donald Trump is saying. How he's saying people want to raise your taxes. I've looked at the vice president candidates, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren. That's in their policies. The capital gains tax, raising the capital gains tax. For stock transactions. The income tax, corporate taxes. I've seen all of that here within the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so I think this is him saying, "Hey, he literally just said it. Your stocks are going to crash if you guys don't reelect me."
Yeah,
he just said it. But as far as policy things go, the income tax, the student loans, capital gains tax. Those are all things. Those are campaign items for him. They're going to be real campaign items for him. So the debate is September 29th. When the debate comes, he's going to do his best to contrast to himself versus Biden. And then as far as that rally goes, I think what you're starting to see is Americans are starting not to. I won't say Americans are starting not to care, but you're starting to see that divide and the attitude towards the coronavirus. And so you're seeing one side of America, hey, we're still cautious, we're still aware. This is still a serious health crisis, and you're seeing another side of America that's saying, "Hey," the lady said it in the video. You have to live life, And so we're seeing that. We're starting to see that division play out in America. Literally, we went to HEB earlier, and I don't know if anybody here knows what HEB is, but it was a party town in there, And I just think that you're starting to see that. You're starting to see Americans that are just, hey, we're tired. You're starting to see that divide there. And so, I don't really know.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate. I'm definitely listening to you. I was trying to ensure you're double bouncing on my audio right now, so I was trying to figure out where it's at. No, it's unfortunate because people are trying to balance, needs, wants, necessities, whatever they want to call it, and those are all different things as well. But this idea of individual liberties, but then also social contracts and collectivism, individualism, and I think it's really tough for a lot of people because, nobody wants to make concessions sometimes, and I understand the lady who says, we can't, what's the point of living if you're living this way, kind of thing. I feel is what she was trying to say, not to put words in her mouth. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, there ain't going to be much to live if you don't take some precautions now, maybe. So, I don't know. The whole Sturgis thing, I probably would have...
Herman Cain?
Herman Cain.
Wow. He went to a Trump rally. That was his horn. He blew that horn. Hey, we're going to do this regardless of what everybody thinks.
Right.
Don't be scared. And then, literally he's dead less than a month later. So... very interesting.
Yeah. No, how do I say this? It's one of those moments where it's like you don't want to say I told you so, because it makes you look like a dick, and because you genuinely feel bad that someone is gone now. But we told you so, right? This man was having a rally in Tulsa, and all these people went on, whatever little media outlets they had available to them and just talked the most shit about how the Dems and the libs are handling coronavirus, right? And, bashing governors for locking things down. So they went in there like they were Mighty Mouse into this rally. And unfortunately, this man lost his life now from the very thing that, he proclaimed to not be in fear of. And I'm not saying you need to be in fear of this thing, but I do think you kind of need to respect it, right? The respect that it can take your life, especially if you're probably an immunocompromised individual who's not of 20 years of age, who's probably, I don't know how old he was, 70s, 60s, 70s probably. I really don't know how old Herman Cain was, but I know he had some pre-existing conditions.
But he was one of the he was in that category. He was the most at risk.
Right.
It's not like sending preschool children in there. He was, like you said, immunocompromised. He was on the top of the list. So
yeah,
very unfortunate though.
Yeah, no, I mean it sucks. Dude's gone, but I mean it's like play with fire, right? So Trump mentioned that. So let's go over the things that he just mentioned. I didn't even have any of these things on my list of what I wanted to talk about today, but since he's starting to talk about it, actually, give me 1 second. I never even got to send out the word live. I didn't get to send out a message to people on Facebook that were live. So hopefully everyone is already joined in to get the notifications. I don't know if you get notifications on whatever platform you're watching this on, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. I think on YouTube you can turn on notifications. It's like a bell icon. But if you're watching, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. So glad that you're with us. So let's go over what he talked about. So I wanted to put him on because I wanted to hear what his executive orders were going to be. So what we know is that the talks between the Democrats and the Republicans, who are supposed to be the decision makers in this, couldn't reach a decision. So I actually have a few clips that I wanted to play that were on this matter. So I think I'm going to go ahead and play those clips, and then we'll go over Trump's, I guess, solution to their non-resolution. So let me pull up these clips right here, and not to foreshadow one of the biggest stories of the week, I do also want to talk about the Beirut blast that happened this week as well, and I wanted to talk about mail-in voting today as well, and then there was a story out of New York where the Attorney General is bringing charges against the NRA, the largest gun rights organization in the nation. Millions of dollars pumped into it by people all across the nation. And I think it's really important to bring this up. To me, it's not a Dem versus Republican thing. To me, this is like a people getting screwed over kind of thing. And I'll tell you what I interpret from that here in a little bit. But let's watch a few of these clips. So I have a clip here of John Cornyn. Forgive me, I forget what state that he is from. I should know this. I think it's Texas, right?
It is Texas.
It is Texas, yeah. So, this is about a 4-minute clip. I'll let it run for a little bit till it starts getting real weird and draggy. And then I'll do the same thing for Pelosi and Schumer with the response from them as well. So let me get this queued up. We'll pull that up and we'll go ahead and play
More than
that.
3 million
Let me know if you don't hear this, Mo.
for unemployment benefits, and recipients have taken advantage of the additional $600 a week.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
This additional income has helped families cover the rent,
Okay, give me 1 second.
groceries, and other critical expenses until they're able to return
All right, give me 1 second, guys. I had to reroute the audio for Mobley. Going through here.
work.
Hear that?
And for many workers, there's still a great deal of uncertainty about when that might happen. Well, it's clear, though, that $600 additional benefit had some unintended consequences. Frankly, we should have capped the amount somebody could receive for unemployment benefits at their previous earning level. But according to the Texas Workforce Commission, with the $600 weekly benefit on top of the state benefit, 80% of the people receiving the unemployment insurance benefit were making more on unemployment insurance than they were previously employed, 80%. That brings us to a point far beyond giving workers the financial support they need to stay afloat. Instead, the federal government is paying people not to work. That's the wrong incentive and certainly completely unnecessary. Payroll, wage substitution, yes. Paying people not to work? No. A recent poll found that 2/3 of Americans believe that these enhanced benefits discourage people from going back to work, and they're right. Among unemployed Americans, nearly half say they would avoid returning to work if these benefits were extended. The businesses in my state that closed their doors earlier this year have now had trouble hiring employees back because some of these, 80% of those former employees, are making more not working than they were working. If we were to extend that benefit through January, as the HEROES Act would, our economy would not recover as we all needed to do.
So I want to pause that there because I do also want to do some commentary while we're here. So what I think is really important here to hear what he's saying. They want people to go back to work because the economy depends on it. But imagine if our economy depended on people who made a living wage, right? It'd be totally different. Because the reality right now that I see is that there's people who have the means to make it through this pandemic, and there's the majority of people who do not. And I think the heart of why it's so imperative for workers, in their eyes, to go back to work right now is because the economy is going to collapse, because the economy has been built on the backs of basically slave wage labor, meaning next to nothing, meaning not a living wage. I had a conversation with someone the other day about the national minimum wage. This person came from affluence. This person lives in an affluent part of town, and we were having a conversation, and I asked that person, I said, do you know what the national minimum wage is? And they didn't know. And when I told them, they were absolutely shocked. And I guess for those who don't know, the national minimum wage right now, last I saw, was $7.25 an hour, right? There are places in these United States where someone makes $7.25 an hour. These are the people that John Cornyn and the Republicans want to get back to work. They want them to go back to work at gas stations and Walmarts and food service establishments and a bunch of other jobs that they categorize as low skill or no skill work, right? They want these people to go back to work so that their economy can come back to what it once was. And I really think that this is a really opportune moment to call bullshit for what it is. The economy's been bullshit since Reaganomics came into play. And that's my take on it. I don't know, what do you feel about that, Mo?
I think that we do have to get back to work at some point in time. And when I say we, I just mean the country. And so if we're looking at data points, and I think that's what these people are. I would almost assume that's what they're looking at. This is a very dangerous thing, but it's not to the point to where it's going to harm a healthy person. And so, do I agree with sending everybody back at one time? Well, maybe not. So, I'm just going to say if I were in charge, I tell you, were over a certain age, you got to sit at home. You just have to sit at home, and it's a tough thing to do. But at the end of the day, you do have people that are able to work, and they choose not to because of the unemployment benefit. Do I think that's the entire motivation of everybody? No, but you have to. I think you have to understand, the fear and people's minds, and they've literally pumped us with fear for the last 6 months. Hey, you're going to die from this. You're going to die from this. You're going to die from this. And that fear is legitimate. And so, you have to give people the opportunity. I don't think you pay people to go back to work either, because you still have people that are working, the essential workers that are still working. They have been working the whole time. And so, in fairness to those people that have been out here risking for everybody else, you should reward those people more so than paying people to go back to work. But at the end of the day, I think that the issue is much more nuanced. You have to look at, what's essential. We have to really dig down and into that. What's essential and what's not. What's important and what's not. We've seen that we can live without movie theaters. You know, we've seen we can live without um, sporting events. You know, we've seen that we can make do without those things, without those things. And so, you know, forcing people back into those arenas, you know, I don't necessarily think that's going to make a difference in our economic situation. When I look at America as a whole, you know, we're stronger in our bread and butter is technology. It really is. And so those workers have been able to work the whole time from home. You know, you have the work from home economy. We have a lot of companies that have proven, you know, I don't need my employees in an office. You know, I can have them Microsoft Teams. Cisco has a platform, WebEx. You know, you have all those different avenues where things can still, you know, commerce can still happen. Right. But I'm not just going to tell anybody, you know, as a leader, I'm not just going to say, hey, you have to go back out there, you know, or else, you know, I'm going to cut off your lifeblood. And that's pretty much what we're doing right now. You know, hey, we're going to shut this down. You know, so you guys have to make a decision. And, you know, I don't know what the consequences that are going to be. You know, but I don't know what the solution is either.
So there's a delicate
like you said, you know, you have conversation with people, you know, about the minimum wage. You know, well, what's the solution to all of this? You know, is it a vaccine? You know, and if the answer is a vaccine, you know, I poll people all the time. Hey, are you going to take a vaccine? And you can imagine the responses that come out. And
so what do they say? What are you hearing?
No.
Nobody wants to take it.
Yeah, nobody wants to take it. Nobody wants to be the first.
Did you ask those same people if they taken other vaccines?
No. I mean, three different people.
Yeah.
You know, one works for American Airlines, airline mechanic, and they've been attempting to furlough him. Oh. And so in their attempt to furlough him, thanks, Lord. In their attempt to furlough him, that's all he's known his whole life. You know, he's worked there for 30, 40 years. You know, that's all he's known his whole life. But he's in one of the hardest hit industries.
Right.
And, you know, he doesn't want to be furloughed. He doesn't want to take early retirement. They're trying to give him a bunch of free airline tickets and, you know, a bunch of other things. He doesn't want that. You know, he wants to retire with his full health benefits.
Right.
You know, he wants more than what they're attempting to give him. And so if people don't go back out, you know, if the people don't go back out to travel, you know, if we don't travel domestically, if we don't travel internationally, you know, it really that's his lifeblood. It puts it in jeopardy. His wife's a school teacher. She's one of the high risk categories. The same thing for her. You know, there's just not many opportunities for these people. And so what they're wanting to do now is just say, hey, I want to just go back to work. You know, I want everything to be normal again. I don't want to take a vaccine, but, you know, I do want to go back out and I want everything to be normal again.
Yeah.
And so you have a bunch of different perspectives in there. So I think that issue is much more nuanced than everyone's making it.
I think it's way more nuanced than everyone's making it. But I think like ultimately, and I didn't want to we'll go here, but like how do I say this? Like ultimately we have to rely on what has worked throughout history, right? I mean, there's a reason why, you know, polio and smallpox have been essentially, you know, eradicated, if not, you know, near eradication. I know there was some resurgence of, I believe it was polio in the country somewhere. But there's a reason why those things have been, you know, pretty much laid to rest. And you know, the life expectancy of humans has gone up because of things like vaccines. And listen, man, I'm not like some blind, like, you know, yeah, put whatever you want inside my body. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But I think, you know, when you look at like the development of these things, like I don't agree with like the rushing of it, right? Like I understand like we probably can't live this way for like more than a year and a half, right? Meaning with the, you know, quarantine and, you know, everything being closed and all that stuff, you know, that would really be catastrophic for the economy. And listen, as much as I would love to change the way that our economy works, meaning I'd love it to work for the people as opposed to people working for it. I didn't want it to happen this way, right? I didn't want it to be, you know, now evictions are going to be starting here pretty soon, and we'll see how much of this executive order stuff that Trump was talking about is going to actually help people stay in their homes or the homes that they're renting. But, you know, I think, how do we say this? A lot of this is a little too late, right? It's a lot of stuff a little bit too late. They could have done this months ago, right? Remember when the first PPP package came out? That was just like one piece of that $5 trillion, some say $7 trillion estimates, all over the place, but multi-trillion dollar package. That's when the time to bail people out was. It was then, not now, right? And now we have these people bickering, and I'll show you the other two people bickering over $600, right? And then Daddy Trump comes out, oh, you know what? We're going to meet right in the middle. We're going to give them 400, And it's like, I think we're not even talking about the mentality of why all this exists in the first place. And I think that's what kind of upsets me the most. And that's why I don't feel like we're coming to any form of resolution, because they're not actually talking about what does what does a viable solution actually look like, right? A viable solution to me looks like changing the way that we move forward with employment in this country, changing the way that we pay people for the jobs that they're being asked to do, especially the first line workers that are going to be the ones who restart our economy, right? The ones that we're asking to be flight attendants on packed cabins of airplanes in confined spaces with, obviously, like when you and I deployed, we got additional pay for hazardous conditions, right? We got hazard pay, right? These people should be getting some form of hazard pay, right? Or something that compensates them for being out there and being exposed in a way that, like you mentioned, people that have these corporate jobs or tech jobs, they don't have to, right? These people make 2 or 3 times as much as the people that are like delivering their food. Man, you know how many Uber drivers I've seen deliver food to my building here? Those are the people keeping this country running. That guy in his Nissan Versa, that guy is keeping this country running. I'm just in my crib with this camera and I do what I do on my computer. I'm not so much keeping the country running as much as that man is. That man has probably fed at least 100 people in the past 2 days, at least, right? Why is that person not entitled to some form of additional compensation by the ridiculously large corporation that he works with, right? Because he's a contractor. That's what I want to talk about. And these people on these fucking on the news all the time, the governors, Cuomo, all these people, red team, blue team, all these people talk about is like what's happening this week, as if it's the most, pressing matter. And it is the most pressing matter. But I think that's why nothing actually gets fixed, because we're only talking about this week. We're never talking about, 4 or 5 months ahead, year ahead, changing the mentality of people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that I really think that, and I think I've stated this to you before, that they're expecting this to be the largest voter turnout in American history. Yeah. And so this is their way of pushing you. There's no middle ground, like we're just butting heads right now. And you have to be on one side of the fence or the other, and so I think this is their way of doing it. If you're a Democrat, you're going to do it one way. Trump's comment was, we have some governors that have done a very good job and we have some that have done a terrible job. I know exactly who he was referencing.
Every blue one.
And when he says, he was literally, you said Cuomo, that's literally who, that's probably the worst one, and so a lot of things are going to come from this. And so we're stuck in the moment. He was literally, like he said right now, and nobody's thinking down the road. And so, I don't know. I always think about my son, literally. We're printing all this money, and you can go on the website and see the national debt calculator, and it's like, dude, like, just give a little dude a Bentley and a villa or something. You know what I mean? Like, just give it to him, like, because they're going to end up paying for it,
right.
In one way or another. Higher taxes, inflation, all of these things are going to they're going to come barreling down the road. It's either that or we go to universal basic income. And so I don't. I've heard literally in the last month, Social Security, we used to joke about it, but Social Security may be insolvent here soon. Mitt Romney said that in the past 2 weeks. And that's our largest demographic in America.
Right.
Elderly people. And so, I don't understand how all of this breaks down without, it's going to be a serious crack. And so a lot of people are going to suffer. And so I don't know, it's really scary thinking about it, but right. I am aware. I'm down the road, but it doesn't seem like everybody else is there. And I don't think we're going to get there until after the election.
Yeah, I mean, you brought.
Once we find out who the next candidate is, we'll have the end of that stalemate then.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought up a valid point. These people are just throwing around all these $1 trillion figures and giving all their friends all this money, and they're not even. These people aren't even going to be here in 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, and if they are, they're not going to be in any real position to be affecting any more change with what's happening here. And I'm not being I'm not trying to be crude or crass. I'm just being realist, right? That is the reality of life, is that these people are in their mid to late 70s, all of them. Schumer, if I'm not mistaken, Schumer is. Pelosi, I'm pretty sure is. And Trump, definitely. Biden, definitely. You know what I mean? Warren, definitely. I know Bernie's also late in his age as well. These, and so it's really important to me on what they're talking about and what their mentality is, right? And so, so let's go to the other side of the aisle. Let's look at, so this was Pelosi and Schumer. So Cornyn's was, I believe, 2 days ago on the floor. And this one is Pelosi and Schumer. I believe this was yesterday. That one up there.
Said that we're going to have the $600. We have documented by Yale University, UCLA, and other authorities that this is necessary. Today, the University of Chicago put out what the cost would be to our economy if we don't have that $600 in terms of purchasing power and the rest. So it's not a question of, we, again, want to see a whole package, and they know that we want the $600.
The $600 has kept, by economic estimates, at least 1 million and probably many more people out of poverty. Out of poverty. We're trying to lift people out of poverty. It's done it. Second, the number one probably motive, engine that the economy isn't doing worse is consumer spending. One of the biggest incentives for consumer spending, additives to consumer spending, is the unemployment. But third, you change the rules. It will take weeks in some states and months in most states before new unemployment can be added. And that will hurt the economy dramatically. They say all these people are staying home because they get more money than if they'd go to work. That is not the American people I know. They want to work. And if they have a job or are offered a job, and with the benefits and with the dignity of work, they take it. But there's it's 11% unemployment. Not everyone who wants to work can get to work. So it's not that they're staying home because they're lazy. I mean, that's a very harsh view of American workers. They're staying home because they don't have a job.
When they come to the table and are like $600, how could it be? They're just demonstrating their condescension to America's working families. There are all kinds of reasons that weigh in on this pandemic. People have to stay home if their children are not able to go to school, or if they don't have child care. There are a number of reasons, but none of them is, I want to stay home because I make more money this way than other. Maybe some of these employers can pay their workers more, but let's not, not to go to that place just because I wouldn't paint all of them with that brush. We shouldn't be worrying about how much it's going to cost. So I said to the secretary, the plural of anecdote is not data. You have some examples, write them down, and let's add it up. And I'll show you my list of money that has been squandered, given to businesses who should not have gotten PPP and the rest. Why are we holding America's working families who are struggling, who have children to care for, or senior elders to care for, and the rest, and make it as if they're, my goodness, they're not worthy of this? And I always say to the American people, just take pride in who you are.
So much. You know why? You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't like, well, I'm going to see. I'll let you say what you got to say.
It upsets me. I know. Listen, I don't think she's a bad person in the sense that I'm sure she really does care about people. But I think she cares about her money more. And what I mean by that is she has had ample opportunity to take care of the American people over her very long career, right? And in addition to working with a Bernie Sanders who genuinely was trying to help people and enact policies that would going to affect people at the lowest level the most in the most positive way. So I find it incredibly disingenuous when these people come out in this manner. And this is why, like, to be honest with you, man, like, these people are on the same team, okay? I had this conversation with someone the other day, and they're like, well, they're not actually sitting at the same tables with these donors and stuff. I'm like, okay, fine. They, at one point in time, sit at a table with a donor who, at one point in time, sat at a different table or the same table with someone of the opposing team. All of these people work for the same hands that give them money. So when she stands there and says, oh, well, I'll come out with my list of where all the money was misappropriated and misspent and all, just come out with the damn list. Don't hold up a black folder and act like you're righteous and you're going to save us with whatever you're holding to use it as a bargaining chip. And to that matter, I don't understand why half of these deals are backdoor deals. Like this whole back and forth between Mnuchin, I forget the other guy's name. They just did a conference too. Mnuchin, the other guy.
Mark Meadows.
Meadows, Mnuchin, and these cats. That should be public. I want to see that because they're like, oh, we can't reach a deal. Why can't you reach a deal? What are you actually saying in there? I want to know what you guys are saying. Tell us why you can't reach a deal. Don't come out with this political theater, feed us a bunch of bullshit, keep us hanging on. Like, people's lives are literally, like, in your hands, right? And so you come out with this, again, this disingenuous, well, I have the numbers here. I can show you who got money, who wasn't supposed to get money. Well, fucking just show us. I don't understand.
Well, it's public information. And so, and I've done the research. It's a rowdy list, man. You know, you have millionaires, multimillionaires that have received at least 250, 350K, up to $1 million in loans. And they're talking about forgiving those, and then small business, I have family members that applied for loans and they really qualify for 10,000. And so when you see things like that, these are, when you talk about the working class people, these are people that go, 7 a.m, they get up, run their business, and they're at home 10 at night. And they don't qualify for the same amount of money. But I think that has more so to do with the connections that everyone has. And so Wall Street has a ton of connections to the banking industry. And the banking industry has a ton of connections to our political apparatus. And so, in the words of Ice-T, same bird, just a different wing, and Pelosi's just as savage as the other side, right. As Mitch McConnell, she's just as savage. But that's the thing. They keep everybody, they want everybody to eat from their hands, versus having some form of solidarity there. And so that, once again, that draws another line between red team and blue team, as you call it. Blue team thinks, oh, my savior Nancy Pelosi is doing everything that she can for me, and then Mitch McConnell's being an a-hole, and then red team thinks Mitch McConnell's doing everything he can do, and then Pelosi's being an a-hole, and then the two kids can't figure it out, and so, like you said, Trump has to come in and do it, and so it makes him look like the hero. It makes him look like the savior in all of this, and so it's just we're almost handing it to him, and so I am really looking forward to the election. I really am. I hate to jump all the way, but I can't wait until that day, dude, just to see. There's going to be some heartbroken people in America, man. There really are.
Yeah, there really are. And I just hope that, I don't know, man. I think either way, to be completely honest, I think either way it's a lose-lose for Americans once again.
It is.
Once again, it is a lose-lose for us. This is what I really hope. And again, I've talked before about the infancy of the internet, right? We're kind of like, I would say, in toddler mode. I mean, I don't have kids, but I think toddlers are like 2 or 3, right? So, we're not babies anymore, right? But we're not, the internet is not a baby anymore, but it's also not grown, right? But TikTok should probably be very evident that the internet is not grown. Like, I don't have a gripe against TikTok. I just think it's a bunch of fucking nonsense. I wish people would
shout out Microsoft.
Yeah, no, I actually wanted to talk about that too. But just in general, social media in general, I love people, man. I love you guys, but take a break from the nonsense and jump into the real world. I know it sucks and it hurts, but man, we can't fix this place if we don't take some of that pain head on, you know?
It seems like it disables critical thinking.
Oh, 100%.
You know, we're not taught to critically think anymore, and so it just depends on how many followers you have. You know, if I have 1 million followers and I go out and I say Nancy Pelosi's the 1 million followers, and like, yay, Nancy Pelosi's the, and it's like, why would you even say that? You know, like,
Yeah.
but nobody really thinks anymore. And so I do understand. I had a conversation with somebody this weekend, and I said, dude, China, they kicked our reporters out of their country at the start of the COVID. I understand why our media out. You know, I understand why, you know, all these countries are really secular as far as they don't want any form of outside influence on their people. And you can see the reason why, because of how our people are responding to this, you know. And so I watched a video earlier. It was a black cop in Portland. You know, he just detailed his experience, you know, through the whole protest. And I mean, it was just a heartfelt thing to hear, you know, him speak, and he's getting it from both sides. He's in a lose-lose situation, but he's the one out there attempting to put some resolve to the chaos. And you know, it's very, very tragic, man, that nobody can really sit down at a table, have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be on one side or the other. You know, if somebody tells you to put on a mask, you know, you're a flipping Democrat. You know, you're Republican if you anti-mask. You know, like how about let's look at the statistics. You know, let's look at the facts. You know, some people are totally science-based in their decisions. You know, some people are totally numbers-based in their decisions. You know, we all have different decision-making processes.
Some people are only religion-based in their decisions.
Or it shouldn't come down to politics.
Right.
It should not come down to it. And we've literally been forced into that hole. You know, the whole George Floyd thing. What happened? You know, we talked about police reform. You know, we had a bill written. We had 2 bills, both sides. And, you know, now we haven't heard anything about it. But still, the same issues exist. And we haven't had a solution to it because of the political theater.
Right.
And so it just pains me, you know, that we've had to go through all of this, and we still haven't had anything accomplished to this day. You know, we've had one stimulus bill passed. You know, they act like they're saviors because everybody got a $1,200 check.
Yeah.
And it's
like,
dude, how long ago was that?
And how
you
far
know,
does that go
April?
for the average American family, right?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't go far. And so, you know, the same thing about the $600. You know, we're trying to, you know, Schumer says we're trying to lift people out of poverty with $600, bro. Like literally. I mean,
I'm glad you caught that.
You guys could have direct deposited $5,000 into everybody's account, bro. Like literally. And so I don't understand it. Dude.
When I was watching it, as soon as he said, because like I save clips to a list so I can find them later, and as soon as he said that, I was like, I'm saving this. Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Lifting people out of poverty, $600 at a time, right? And so again, I think it's rich, the word, you know, it's how rich is it that, you know, that they even had the audacity to like bitch about people getting $2,400 extra a month. Like it's like, you know what I really think it is? They don't want people to have a taste of it. Once you get a taste of what life is like when you actually have some form of living wage, you know, everything changes for you, right? And then your expectations change. Yeah. And what's happening in Beirut right now, so today in Beirut, there was massive protest, as there have been for the past couple years, but today was another massive protest because people took to the streets to, you know, in protest of their government and the corruption and everything over there. And I think that here, the only reason why we don't really have that in the levels that other countries do is because we've been so conditioned to this way of life. We've been so conditioned to just do without all the time, you know? Americans were fat, happy, and lazy, right? We got our fast food. We got our 70-inch fucking TV screen. Like, every house here has a TV, regardless of your income level, right? And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's how we are here. Everyone has that, right? And so we're kind of complacent, you know? And I think it's, you know, when they forced everyone to stay home, and then they started feeding everybody these $600 checks, and everyone's like, damn, I have all this extra income. I can do all these things that I've always wanted to do, whether it was fixing their car, improvements on the house that they either own and or are renting, or are renting, maybe sending money to family members who are elderly and normally don't have the means to send money to their family members. Just all kinds of stuff, like badass birthday parties for their kids, like whatever it was, right? These people now have this additional buffer, and I'm not saying that it's a lot of money in the first place, but a lot of these people that I've spoke to, at least, were like, yeah, man, this is like, I'm saving, like, man, I've never had this much money at one time, like most people live paycheck to paycheck here. We knew before Corona that a $400 or $1,000, or most Americans didn't have $1,000 in the bank, and a $400 emergency bill would jack everyone up. We knew that going into Corona. So I think that's what this is all about. I think this is about oligarchies and how oligarchies run, right? Because oligarchies are about rich people running things. I think we have not lived in a democracy for a very long time. And I know people don't like words because it puts them in a place where they can't understand anymore sometimes. But I need people to understand what an oligarchy is, right? This is not a democracy, right? I want it to be. We're about to find out in the next election if it's a democracy or not, right? But truly at the heart of how our government runs, it's money, man. It's that frog skin, it's that greenback, it's that in God we trust bearing a piece of paper that we all just can't do without, So on that note, what do you think about the executive order where he says he might curb the capital gains tax? How do you see that one?
I think that that's another campaign point for him, because he knows that most of his base are market participants. They know. I mean, there's the pump Trump or the Trump pump. I'm sorry. I mean, we know it. Literally. I can, if I know Donald Trump has a rally schedule, or if I know he's ready to sign some form of policy, I know exactly how the market's going to react that day. I know he cares about stocks. I know he cares. The Dow Jones is his favorite index. I know that. That's what this whole thing revolving with China, is really centered around. It's almost like a technology Cold War. And so that I think that he's just talking to his people. Hey, if you deviate from me, this is what will happen. He's painting the most negative picture possible. We all, I experienced the Corona crash myself, so it wasn't a very fun thing to have to experience. And so in doing that, if you paint that picture to someone again, they almost can relive that feeling. And so I think that's just him. Hey, I'll reduce your capital gains tax, which he's already done it once during his term. And so I do think that that's him talking to his base. The same thing he came out, 2 weeks ago, and I did the regulations as far as putting mixed income homes in certain communities.
Right.
He said, hey, you don't have to worry about your property values declining anymore. That was him campaigning right there. Everything that he's done up until this point is him campaigning. I didn't think I would see him wear a mask, but he did it. He did it, and he really did it when Biden's poll numbers went up. When he was more so criticized on his handling of the coronavirus, and so I think that's him campaigning. That would help me out. And so I am not opposed to that form of legislation or that form of action. But at the end of the day, I do know who he's speaking to there. Yeah. And so, it doesn't have to be, that'll help Nancy Pelosi out as well. She makes a lot of money in capital gains.
Like I said,
if anybody
they're all, like I said, they're all on the same team, bro. Now, really. And here's the thing, man. It's like, I'll give credit where credit is due, right? So, I will be a beneficiary of a reduction in capital gains tax with my cryptocurrency. I've been looking at maybe cashing out because I want to maybe purchase a property, and I'll be using those funds for the property, right? But if I cash out what I've been putting in, past year as a short-term gain, short-term capital gain, I'll be subject to that 30% tax as well. So, but I don't need that. I don't need that, right? It's nice to have that. What people need is actual financial assistance right now for the people who, have really lost almost everything. If not, they have lost everything and are about to. Again, evictions are about to start. So one of the other executive orders that he said he was going to sign was about evictions. He didn't really detail what it was as far as I could hear. Granted, I was doing certain things with the audio, but I think that's a good one. But here's the thing: as a landlord myself, a homeowner myself, you have to do both sides, right? You can't just put a moratorium on evictions, but then allow the housing market to slide from bankruptcies of foreclosures because the landlords can't pay their the mortgages. So I didn't hear him address that. So I'm really interested to see what these things actually are. I mean, he just came out and just said these things. I'm going to sign. We probably should have kept the video rolling to see what he actually signed, but
my theory with that is only certain housing markets are going to suffer. And I think you're going to have more so places like California and New York that are really going to suffer because the cost of living there is extremely high and they have state taxes on top of everything else. State taxes, everything, the taxes are just really high in those places. And so New York and California, Democratic governors, he can probably care less about that. But I can see that migration happening here. My latest 3 neighbors, Arizona, California, and New York. And so I know people are leaving those places in search of more affordable housing, whatever it is, we didn't have the same effect from the coronavirus. We didn't have that same effect here. We still had a nice amount of infections, but not the same amount of deaths as those 2 states.
Yeah, I mean,
so I think that's more so how we're structured. New Yorkers are really close in proximity. They're just really populated areas. The same thing for California. Those are just really populated areas. We're populated as well, but there's enough land here for us to be spread out. You're not, right on top of your neighbor. And so, I think that they can see, if I can see that, they can see that as well. They're getting that data as well. And so, I do think that, there are going to be some ill effects. But, I think that some states will fare better than other states. Like the Dakota governor, hey, you guys can come here. Our legislation's friendly here. Come set up your business here. These are states where you can go and operate a business and not have the same amount of business expenses. You have Tesla relocating here to Austin, Texas. That's a really interesting thing. A really interesting shift happening in America. You're going to have this mass migration as well as a reorganization of labor. And so now, like you talked about Uber drivers, I guarantee you UPS has a record number of employees now. Amazon has a record number of employees, FedEx. These are the service industries now, where people are just, hey, if you can't make it, if you can't work from home, we'll deliver my stuff to me. That's the new industry. And so, I think all of that is happening under our nose.
Did you know that FedEx is the largest non-union employer in the United States?
Did not know that.
They are. So it's crazy that, there's not to get into it or whatever, but and I had someone ask me and I just had to be honest. I didn't really have a very educated answer because I hadn't really educated myself on it. I mean, I have initial ideas about it, but the question was pro or anti-labor union. What were my thoughts? So I don't know, but I find it ironic that the largest non-union employer is juxtaposed by one of the largest union employers, being UPS. So clearly both can work. I don't know what the quality of life for either are. I know what the quality of life of UPS is. My father is a UPS driver, and tells me nothing. How do I say this? He's told me really good things about being part of a union that has really helped him as far as being employed by UPS. In contrast, I've never actually had a conversation with a FedEx driver to know if they have any better benefits or however that works. So moving on, I want to go on and I want to talk about mail-in ballots, and then I'll let you get on out of here, Mo, and I'm going to close out with some Beirut stuff, and then I'm going to close the show for today. So yeah, I just want to shout out to everyone who's watching on all the platforms. I know I've been gone for a few weeks. I was fixing a few things up. I hope you kind of like the new format. I added like a ticker at the bottom. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really write much in it, so it's just scrolling the same few things. I think it's a quote from, oh yeah, actually, did you read it at the bottom, Mo? Have you seen what it says?
Yeah, I read it earlier.
That actually concerns me. Actually, I do want to talk about that, but I want to finish. So thank you to everybody that's listening on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Like, subscribe, share, dislike, rage, hate, whatever you want to do. Let me know. I appreciate that. But no, this Bill Maher, and I can't pull up any of Bill Maher's clips, obviously, because he's on HBO, and I would get, copyright strikes and stuff. But he had someone on yesterday, and it was just another iteration of a conversation he's been trying to have since Trump got elected, which was, what are you, Democrats, what are you going to do if the man doesn't leave the office of the presidency? What are you going to do? And his thing is like, well, all his supporters have all the guns, which is true. The Democrats ain't got no guns. I think the guest that he had on last night said that I think it was upwards of 70%, 65-70% of all the gun owners in the United States identify as Republican, right? So I'm just saying, and they weren't trying to drum up no Civil War stuff or anything like that on the show last night. They were just calling, balls and strikes. The reality is the majority of the people who hold the power of the pistol in this country back a candidate, as of now, who has already started planting the seeds of doubt as far as accepting the election. We had him outwardly say it to Chris Wallace, which is, I think, what's here. No, this is I think this is the Chris Wallace one. And then he did the Axios interview with the other individual. He had some more choice words to say about the election. And so, as much as you, Mo, I'm really anxious for this election to happen, but I'm also very nervous because I think this is a very pivotal moment in our history, America, because we have, and you know what? To Bernie Sanders' credit, all of my, I'm upset with Bernie Sanders, right, for a host of reasons, but for all the reasons that I'm upset with him, he got one thing right. I am starting to more so now than ever, because it's coming down to the wire, and that's like, when you push people to the edge, they start getting more crazy and outlandish. And I think, as you said earlier, Trump is kind of realizing, Biden's numbers have gone up, and he has to kind of switch tactics to, kind of make his numbers stay afloat. And then, so his rhetoric is becoming increasingly troublesome for me. Right? He's now outwardly saying these things about not just accepting the election results, even on election night. He wants to say, oh, well, the ballots all don't get counted for a couple of days after and all that stuff. And hey, you want to have a conversation about how we elect our officials in this government? I'm down to have that conversation, Mr. Donald Trump. But you're not allowed to have that conversation so that you can skew it so that it benefits you. That I'm not in favor of. So I want to play this video. I'll probably cut it off around 4 minutes, but it's actually really interesting. It's a CBS This Morning thing. I think the guy's name is Tony Dokupil. Sorry, sir, if I butchered your name. Basically, what they did was they held a mock election. Okay, this is to test the United States Postal Service's efficiency for mail-in ballot voting. So they created their own election. I think it was 100 ballots. Don't quote me on that. They went around to different places in the city. They dropped them all off, and then they saw what they could get back. And it's actually a really interesting experiment. So let me cue this up here for everyone.
Many Americans are expected to vote by mail for the first time this November because of the pandemic. And all across the country, the rules vary for when you can get your ballot and when you should return it. So just take a look at this. In green, you can see states that require ballots to be postmarked by Election Day. The yellow states require that they be received by Election Day. Key distinction. For details, everybody should check with their state election office. I can't stress that enough. Very important. One other thing that is very clear, you need to give it even more time than your state might recommend to get your ballot through the mail system. This is crucial. In 2016, out of 33 million mail-in ballots, more than 73,000 arrived too late to be counted. They were not counted. So what we did is we set up an experiment to see how long you should give yourself to make sure your vote actually counts. We got guidance from voting rights advocates who say it is as simple as determining how much time it takes for first-class mail to go from point A to point B. If you know how to mail a letter, you already know how to mail in your vote. How you doing? Good, thanks. Thank you very much. But how long might it take for that vote to actually arrive and be counted?
Oh, you're welcome. Have a good afternoon.
We decided to test it, sending 100 mock ballots simulating 100 voters from locations all across Philadelphia to a P.O. box we set up to represent a local election office. A couple days later, we mailed 100 more, using the same size envelopes and the same class of mail as real ballots here. To approximate the weight, we even folded mock votes into every one. In the following week, we checked our P.O. box for the results.
Mail pickup notice, there's more.
When we went to collect everything, though,
Nothing?
most of our votes seemed to be lost.
That's all I have back there right now. That's
You're sure? You're totally sure? I believe you. I just...
all right then. Have a good day.
Okay, take care.
We had to ask for a manager
We're trying to do something about mailing ballots.
and explain
Rowdy.
ourselves before someone finally found our votes.
They have you somewhere else.
Okay, thank you.
1, 2.
We soon discovered another problem, missorted mail. 2 pieces of it.
We got a birthday card from Mike to Ronnie. Have a sweet B-day. Get it? There's a B on top.
When the birthday greetings ended,
12, 13.
we found a bigger issue. 21% of our votes hadn't materialized after 4 days. And the batch we'd mailed a week prior, some of those were missing too.
So of our 100 ballots, 97 arrived, which sounds pretty good, unless you consider the fact that that means 3 people who tried to vote by mail in our mock election were in fact disenfranchised by mail.
In a close election, 3% could be pivotal, especially in what's expected to be a record year for mail-in voting.
We're going to see somewhere between probably 80 and 100 million voters receiving their ballot that way.
Tammy Patrick is a former Arizona election official who says many states have policies that just don't take into account the postal system.
So states like Ohio, you can request your ballot on Saturday up until noon for Tuesday's election. And that is the worst possible thing because you are setting up the voters with false expectations and you're setting them up to fail.
The Postal Service says voters should mail their return ballots at least 1 week prior to the due date. But nearly half of all states still allow voters to request ballots less than a week before the election. So you can forgive the public for being a tad confused.
How long do you think the post office recommends?
About 3 days, 2 to 3 days.
They're saying at least a week.
A week?
They're saying at least a week for your vote.
Others are hesitant to rely on mail for something as serious as their vote.
Do you trust the Postal Service to deliver your vote?
I never have, honestly. I don't know if I would.
Have you ever had anything lost in the mail?
I absolutely have. Yeah.
Are you waiting on things in the mail right now?
I am. I am.
Yeah.
I just don't trust the mail. That's true.
You don't trust the mail either?
Well, I just don't. I would like to give, especially during COVID, give them ample time to deliver it.
I don't trust it.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm scared that it might get lost in the mail. I just want to make sure that my vote is submitted. Like, I see that it's submitted, that it actually counts.
In the warehouse where Philadelphia stores its voting machines, we shared the results of our little experiment with City Commissioner Lisa Deely, who helps oversee elections here.
Better than you expected.
It was better than I expected.
Okay, that's good to know.
After nearly 15,000 ballots arrived late in last month's primary here, she says voters are right to be wary.
If I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is even if a voter follows all the rules in the state of Pennsylvania, you still can't guarantee, as an election commissioner, that that vote arrives on time.
No, because I can guarantee my end of it. I can guarantee that I'm going to get you your ballot, and if I get it back in time, it's going to be counted. But I have no way of guaranteeing what happens in the Postal Service.
Think about that for a minute. So we should point out that official election mail, unlike our mock ballots here, has a logo that we couldn't include. That logo is supposed to expedite things. But our results are broadly in line with the post office's own audits. The Postmaster General declined our request for an interview, but in an email, the Postal Service told us it's, quote, committed to delivering election mail in a timely manner. And it says it can handle the expected surge and that it is working with election officials to help with that effort and to educate the public. But guys, Gail, the Postal Service also says, get this, it cannot guarantee any delivery date with your ballot. So the recommendation nationally is don't wait. Get that thing in the mail early.
All right, get that thing in early. So, will you be mailing in your vote this year, Mo, or will you be voting this year?
No. Yeah, I will, and I'll actually go and cast
You're gonna go to the
mine.
poll.
I don't. It's one of those things. That's one of those things that you sacrifice some time for.
So
I do understand wanting to vote by mail. I do understand it's more convenient for some people. Some people do still have fears of certain things, but you do run that risk. And so knowing that you run that risk, you're gonna take that chance. And so I don't want to, and I'd rather just go and cast it and be done with it. I don't want to have that worry that it's not going to be counted.
Yeah, no, I get it. So I wish there was a way that I could know if my vote is counted. So this would be the first year that I'm voting by mail, for a number of reasons. I'm a Bernie supporter, right? So I'm a little pissed off about that. I'm not very excited to have to be forced to choose between two people. And yes, I know there's other people on the ballot.
You write yourself in.
You know what? I did that one year, but not for president. Actually, wait, no, I didn't do that for president. Yeah, I think I'll be honest, part of it's Corona. I just don't want to go. I've done everything else during Corona, so it's not like I'm in fear of it or whatever. I just, I figured if there was a year for me to see what it's like, because I also feel like now that I'm doing this show, right, and I'm putting myself out here. Also, if you see the light going up and down for everyone at home, it's because I'm in front of a window. I know it's the worst place to film, but this is where I'm at for the time being. So, but yeah, I like to be able to talk about these things from a place of actually having done it myself. So I've never cast a ballot by mail that I can recall. So I'm going to do it. So I figured what better year than now? If my vote gets lost, probably didn't matter anyways, right? So, but I hope it doesn't get lost, and so we'll see how it goes. I did it here in Illinois. I filled out the paper the other day to send it in. But I wanted to say, in the
to touch on what they and a lot of those people have valid points in the video. A lot of those people have fears. They would just rather go and get it done. And to go back to Trump not leaving the White House, and Republicans being gun owners, that's one thing that's always bothered me. You don't have to be a Republican to be a gun owner. You can be a Democrat and be a gun owner as well. And so I just wish more people would own that. And the same thing with the market as well. Everybody thinks that it's more of a Republican thing. But you can be on either side of the fence and still be an investor. And so he talked about 401ks and stuff like that. You have people that work for UPS. I'm sure your father has. If he works for UPS, he probably has some form of compensation plan. And I know your dad's blue team.
I think what it is you're right. Anyone can be any of these things. Just the reality is that they're not, though, right? The majority of gun owners, if they have a political affiliation, it's not Democrat. That's just the way it is, man, So, but yeah, anyone can be a gun owner. Shit, I'm waiting for my FOID card here. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I'm waiting to get my firearm owner ID card in the state of Illinois so I can go buy something for myself. So yeah, on that note though, I saw that black ownership of guns has skyrocketed in the past few weeks, and it was a tweet that someone had, and I saved it. I don't know where I saved it. And the tweets are always it's on Reddit. It's a subreddit called Black People Twitter, and it's always like really good short quips of things, right, that people put on Twitter. And one of them was talking about the rise in black ownership of guns over the gun sales and gun ownership in the past few weeks. But they framed it in a way that was like, good job. And this was a black person who wrote it. He was saying, good job, everyone. Let's keep it going, because then they'll actually fix the gun laws. I actually believe that. I believe that that's...
Have you ever heard of, and it's a play on MAGA, but there's a group called
Yeah,
NAGA.
NAAGA. Yeah.
And so
yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of organizations out here, man. You know, I've seen it literally today. I saw an NRA commercial, and it was a black guy, and you know, he talked about the violence, you know, and he said, hey, you know, every time, and he didn't reference race, but what he just references, you know, every time that there's a gun crime, you know, all gun owners are persecuted. You know, and he said, you know, there are some knuckleheads out here with guns, and it's the truth. You know, there are. You know, and so the gun doesn't necessarily do. You know, I've had that change of thought since I've left Illinois. You know, and I grew up in Illinois, and there was always the message there. You know, guns are bad, guns are bad. And then when you come here, you know, I'm in Texas now, and you come to a place like Texas, and everybody has guns, but you don't have the same amount of gun violence. And so it just makes you stop and ask the question, like, what's the real issue here? You know, who's pressing the buttons? And so I just think that, you know, it's been highly politicized. And then, too, to speak on your NRA, I know you wanted to reference the NRA. You know, they're the four individuals.
I was actually going to play a video here pretty soon, but go ahead.
The lawsuit accuses four.
No, go ahead.
But the basis of that investigation is the Trump Foundation.
Yeah.
And so it makes you wonder, you know, what do they know that we don't know yet, you know, in regards to the Trump Foundation? Was there money funneled from the NRA, the Trump Foundation? You know, they talked about trips and stuff like that, you know, so very interesting that something like that's going to come down the pipe.
So we'll get back into that here. So I'm going to play this video since we're here talking.
Four of the National Rifle Association's top leaders of an extensive pattern of fraud, diverting $64 million from the nonprofit over just 3 years to serve as their own personal piggy bank.
For these years of fraud and misconduct, we are seeking an order to dissolve the NRA in its entirety.
New York Attorney General Letitia James is calling for the removal of Wayne LaPierre, the NRA's leader for nearly 3 decades and its most public face. The lawsuit claims he spent more than $500,000 on 8 trips to the Bahamas and more than $3 million on luxury car services. That he paid for hair and makeup for his wife and obtained a post-employment contract valued at $17 million without the board's approval. In response, LaPierre promised to fight, saying this is an unconstitutional, premeditated attack aiming to dismantle and destroy the NRA. The group filed its own lawsuit and accused the New York Attorney General, a Democrat, of a power grab, trying to score political points ahead of the 2020 election. The NRA spent more than $54 million during the 2016 election cycle and last month endorsed President Trump for a second term.
That's a very terrible thing that just happened. I think the NRA should move to Texas and lead a very good and beautiful life.
Also today, D.C.'s Attorney General sued the NRA's charitable foundation for misuse of funds as well. Both lawsuits are civil complaints, not criminal.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking.
That because it was so ingrained, she was saying like it's just right, like throughout the whole organization, and it came from the top. I'll be honest, I don't know that dissolving it is the right answer, to be completely honest. I really don't really think much about the NRA. I know they're just, you know, gun nuts and stuff, and they get a little political sometimes, and I know they do a lot of donations to certain campaigns or support certain campaigns and stuff like that, but I don't know. So, are you a member of the NRA?
I am not.
Are you a member of NAGA?
I am not.
Okay. Are you going to become a member of NAGA?
I am not.
Okay. Should I become a member? Yeah. I don't know what the entrance terms are. I haven't looked it up.
Yeah, you might not qualify.
I don't think I'm going to qualify, am I?
Check your bloodline.
Well, there's that. Yeah, so we'll see what comes of that. I would imagine, as you know, the Republicans are saying, you know, it's a political ploy, and it kind of, it kind of looks like that way to me, right? But I mean, obviously, this guy. The thing is, it's a nonprofit, right? And she was saying in the press conference was that LaPierre and everyone else in the organization were using the proceeds of it as it was a for-profit company. So, earlier when I was talking about the reason why I wanted to talk about this was, there's a lot of people who invested in that organization, right? And, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, freedom of all kinds of stuff here in America. Whether anyone agrees with it or not, you have the freedom to be part of an organization such as the NRA, right? And these people sent in millions of dollars, some of them over the course of their lifetime, to this organization. And I think that they should know that, this guy was using this money, for, what did they say, for his wife's hair and makeup and, $3 million on private vehicle services. Like, that's a little egregious. You know what I mean? Like, you can take a Camry like the rest of us, sir, So, yeah, I think people should know that that's what was happening. So I do think it's right to oust people who hide behind the nonprofit status and essentially profit from it. So I don't know.
They're just a lobbyist. They're a lobbyist organization.
Right.
That's how I look at them. They lobby, people send the money, and then they lobby for for gun rights. And so,
yeah,
I think most people are comfortable. They've become accustomed to that. I don't know what the membership fees are monthly, but I think people are accustomed to that. They feel like those people are out there looking out for their best interests in regards to firearms.
See what the NRA fees real quick for NRA membership, why you should join.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know what the membership is. How many people? How many? Yeah. Yeah, it's 5 million members. That's a lot of money, and I'm sure they're receiving money in various other forms too, besides those membership fees. I'm sure they do public speaking events, and I don't know. They might host fundraisers and things of that sort. So I'm sure they get donations from people as well. Our political apparatus.
Oh yeah, some backdoor deals. All right, Mo, do you have any words on the stock market before I let you get out of here? I know that's something you keep really close to your heart.
I think that I think it'll be up come Monday morning because Trump's signing this executive order. But I do think that even if Biden gets elected, I don't think it'll be as bad as the picture that Trump's painting. And so, as I've always told people in the past, I would implore anybody, if you have the opportunity, it doesn't take much. It doesn't to become involved in it. And so, I love people have the fallacy that you're going to get rich, overnight. It's not the case whatsoever. But if you are persistent and you can weather all these storms, this is volatility unlike we've ever seen it, in the market, and it's because our president controls the world by Twitter. But I do think that it's something that everybody should have some form of buy-in. That's maybe something too to solve the issue of income inequality. I know that's something that our political leaders should probably look at. The market, whether it be stocks, whether it be Bitcoin, your metals, your gold, whatever it is, you should have something. You should really have something. And if you don't, you're really, you're missing out on a golden opportunity. I think, no pun intended.
Do you remember when I asked you about gold a few months ago, and you were like, nah, and like now it's like killing it?
Yeah, I told you about the ETF. You wanted to buy bars.
I wanted bars, man.
Buy the ETF.
I want some bars.
Yeah, but if you'd have bought the ETF's at an all-time high
it's like
now.
the same.
And so you'd have a basket of gold, so to say.
I want the gold, man.
It's just safer.
The gold.
Safer that way. And so I do, we have a record delivery of gold, but with everything going on geopolitically, I do think that gold will continue its rise, and that's also your deflationary instrument.
Yep.
So if we are going to have inflation, which you can see it right now, grocery prices are extremely high. It's just one of those things. The price of lumber is at an all-time high, and all types of materials are at an all-time high right now. And so, your metals are going to continue to see value. So it doesn't have to be gold. It can be silver. It can be copper. Silver is more undervalued than gold is right now. And so once gold, reaches that peak, silver is probably going to catch some of that draft, that tailwind. The same thing with copper. And so I just think that the opportunity is there for anybody. Just take the time out and educate yourself on it. And, one day at a time. $1 at a time. But I do see people, that don't participate, and they probably think that they shouldn't participate, or they don't understand it. But it just takes a little time.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. No, that's pretty sound advice. Yeah.
Yeah. Microsoft's probably gonna buy TikTok here. So.
45 days, right?
It's gonna be a stock down. They've got 90 days to complete it, to complete the transaction.
The transaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny because
Microsoft's probably a good buy right now.
It's funny because my sister, like, I was dropping them off, and the phone was like going off with the alerts for the news story that Trump is going to sign an executive order to ban TikTok, And so I told my sisters, because they use it, they're young, and I was like, hey guys, just be the first to let you know, and I let them know, and my sister was like, man, that's so stupid. He's just mad because we messed up his Tulsa rally. And I was like, nice. I was like,
Nah, it's a little bit more detailed than that. I mean, and we've known for a while. This has been 2 years, I believe, that, and this has been a government order. TikTok's a Chinese spy tool, and so we've known this for a while. But now that we've instituted legislation, I don't know if people know, but TikTok's servers are hosted by Alibaba and Tencent. And so if you look at Alibaba stock, it's went from 200 to 250, and the same thing as Tencent. It's up pretty high as well. And so it's just a piece of software. That's all it is. There's no, you don't have any buildings behind it. You have a few, a small amount of employees, software engineers, data developers, things like that. But it's just a piece of software, but it's very popular for children. And so something like that, that was the, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, all of those things had their days, and they're still prevalent now. But TikTok really swept our nation during the COVID crisis, and so it's a value. It's a store of value, and so I do think that we're not looking at it. Younger people don't tend to look at it. I have a neighbor. He told his daughter, "Hey, delete TikTok," and this girl's 12 years old. No. And it's like, oh wow,
some of these people have amassed, hundreds of thousands of followers, right? And they're like 15. So
yeah,
how do I say this? Some of them were making a living off of it, right? This whole social media influencer nonsense. But yeah, it is what it is, man. But so here's how I think about it. You know what? Someone has my data, whether it's the Chinese or the Americans. Someone's got my shit and they're using it against me. So what are you gonna do, right? So Microsoft gets to have our data now, not the Chinese.
Yeah, well, they've got enough of it
That's
already.
That's what I'm saying.
So
like,
you might as well get paid
what
off
are they
of
spying
it.
on 15-year-olds? Like, I don't understand. Like, I understand that it can be utilized as the vehicle for spying. No one has yet to tell me what they've actually done with it, and I'm not advocating for TikTok.
I think they use it's the same thing as Facebook. They do this to identify trends, social trends, and people's shopping habits.
Social engineering. Well, so what? Amazon can fucking tell me that I want something before I know I want it, but Alibaba can't.
It's the same thing. Yeah, and I don't know. I listen to Elon Musk. I think he's a very interesting guy, and he's talking about his Neuralink program.
Right.
And that's literally what he states. Within 10 years, we'll have the ability. Your phone will be able to build an algorithm based off your daily activities. And so let's just say your phone already has a pedometer on it. Your phone now can detect your heart rate. Your phone can do so many things. Your phone knows what apps you go to and your shopping habits and, even how many times you charge it per day. And so if I can build all of that into an algorithm, pretty soon your phone will be making the decisions for you, or it'll be just that fast. Hey, do you want to do this? I was just thinking that. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And so we're getting there.
I'm with you on
getting
that, right? I've been saying that for years as well, right? Our data, marketing. I do marketing now, and when I was in marketing in school, that was my biggest thing that I asked all my professors in that field. I was like, explain to me how marketing is nothing more than the manipulation of human behavior, especially now that I know people's everything. I know what time you look at my page. I know what you bought. I know how much you've spent. I can target you based upon things that you didn't even know were put together to be a target on you. But again, back to what have the Chinese actually done with TikTok? What are they doing?
I'm not certain.
I haven't got
Maybe
that answer.
Identifying, I don't know. I have no clue.
So what are they doing? Right? What are they doing that these people here aren't already doing to us? I'm really, again, I'm not advocating for TikTok. I care less.
The pie, I think.
Huh?
We want our piece of the pie.
I really think that's what it is. Yeah. No, and that's to me is bullshit, because you scream free market and globalism and you force us into this thing that I don't think is very good for everyone. And then you want to play by different rules when it doesn't benefit you. So I think the hypocrisy really is the part that that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So whatever. Probably people are going to say I'm a Chinese sympathizer now or whatever. So whatever. It's whatever, dude. All right, Mo. Well, I appreciate you. I'm gonna go ahead and do this Beirut thing, and then I'm gonna sign off. So I have some things I want to say about that. So thanks for joining me today. Sorry for the stuff at the beginning. I know we jumped right into DJT telling us how he was gonna save the world right before the election. Go figure, right? So any last words for everyone? Yeah.
Now, man, love and peace to everybody, man. I implore everybody to start critically thinking. Just because somebody's on a different side of the fence as you doesn't mean you have to just completely disregard their opinion. There's some middle ground somewhere. We can all talk to each other like human beings and, just bring out the best in each other, no matter, what the other person thinks. So I just implore everybody to do that. Take care of your family, take care of your well-being, and, we will get through this. I think something beautiful is going to come out of all of this. Don't know what it is, but I do think something beautiful is going to come out of all this.
I agree.
Good luck to everybody.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Mo. Appreciate your time, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, later, bro.
All right, peace.
Peace out.
Here. All right. Let me go back here. Yeah, so super bright. Like I said, thank you for everyone who's still here. I got one last story. This one's a little personal. It's about Beirut and what happened this week. If you haven't been in front of a television or your phone or something, really trying to gauge if people actually are getting, is everyone watching at all times now? Does everyone know all the news as it happens? I don't know. So I still want to cover things that I think people may have not heard about yet, or just maybe to give my perspective, right? Yeah, so I have family in Beirut, or I have family in Lebanon, rather. I do have a cousin who lives in Beirut, daughter. But I have some people that I've met through from the time that I spent in Beirut. I care for, even though, we all have these people who we don't talk to every day, but we still care about them, and we connect with them when we can. And so I reached out to these people, and everyone is okay far. So family's okay. Friends and acquaintances that I've met while I was in Lebanon. I spent 5 months there. Tried to live there forever. One of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my entire life. And if you've never been, you kind of don't understand, and that's okay. So, but I would implore all of you to maybe try it. So, a explosion happened, and I'll just show a few clips, and then I'll just give a few choice words, and then we'll get out of here. So, let me.
There are troubling new allegations tonight about that deadly port explosion in Beirut. Sources have told the Guardian newspaper that prior to the blast, dozens of bags of fireworks were being stored in the same warehouse as that stockpile of ammonium nitrate, which acts as an accelerant in a fire. In video from the day of the blast, you can see white flashes, what appear to be fireworks, going off before the massive explosion. A former port worker told the Guardian newspaper he warned for years it was a disaster waiting to happen and says nothing was done.
There's tons of videos of that you can see online. I've watched enough to I'm still disturbed by it. That's wild. That's wild. To think about all the people who hurting there. Estimates of 300,000 people, I believe, are estimated to be homeless now, and I believe it's up to 157 deaths from that explosion. So what's happening right now, there was a lot of unrest here, so I'll play another video. So today there was a Yeah, so a lot of people took to the streets today for a myriad of reasons. Naturally, the most pressing was this most recent accident. And so I don't want to butcher this, like in the sense that like I don't want to talk too much about things that I don't know and I'm not there. But from what I've gathered thus far and from what I've been told and what I saw for myself while I was there, corruption is rife in this government. And if there's any reason that you need to understand why I'm so hard on our own government, it's because of this, right? It's because I experienced a place that, yeah, everyone loves America, right? Everyone loves it here, and everyone's like, this is home, and I want this place to be the best, right? Lebanese people say the same thing about Lebanon, right? They love that place, right? They love it. It's their home. They want it to be the best. The problem is their government doesn't work for them. The same way that I perceive our government here to not work for us. So, not to get too much into history and politics of Lebanon and the Middle East in general, because it's a very broad discussion that's incredibly nuanced and has a lot of facets to it. Long story short, what happened in this instance was there was a vessel that came to Beirut with ammonium nitrate on it. And actually, I'm going to play a video that explains everything that has to do with that vessel. The ammonium nitrate that was on that vessel was seized at the port, and it was stored for, I believe, 6 years in a facility on the fact that that facility ended up exploding in that manner is an incredible symbol of the ineptitude of that government. The gridlock that exists in that government that doesn't allow simple things like public safety to be at the forefront of what is being governed. Corruption is rampant. The people who run that country mostly only serve their themselves and what others would say are their masters, meaning other political interests from other countries in the Middle East and even abroad. So again, I don't want to get too much into their politics. I'm hoping to get some people that are on the ground to come on and share their experience firsthand, and have a better discussion about it instead of just me standing here and telling you these things. So I wanted you to see this video because I watched it this morning. I thought it was actually incredibly interesting because I didn't know the story of the ship. So apparently this is the captain of the ship that originally brought I believe it was 7 tons of ammonium nitrate to Beirut's port and why it landed there. So this video is about 4 minutes long. So just, check it out.
Это аммония, это селитра, удобрение. Да, опасный груз, но это не столько опасный, который нельзя перевозить. В мешках, каждый мешок 1 тонна. 2750 мешков.
А само судно там отправилось с Батуми?
Это сначала она из Батуми пришло в Турцию уже погруженная.
Угу.
Оттуда уже с Турции мы пошли в Пирей, в Грецию, а с Пирея пошли в Бейрут, а из Бейрута должны были пойти в Мозамбик.
Почему вы туда именно зашли? Вот что там вообще произошло? Что надо было там делать?
Он сказал, что нужно груз взять попутный, дополнительный. Поскольку у него нету денег, если мы пойдем через Суэцкий канал, надо будет оплачивать. И вот он решил, значит, чтобы мы зашли в Бейрут, нашел там груз какой-то. Ну вот так вот мы пришли в Бейрут. Груз оказался тяжелым, что не могли мы его погрузить на крышки. Крышки прогибались. Но они слабые, проржавели уже. Вот. Ну и не смогли брать, отказались мы. Бейрутские власти не выпустили нас, а арестовали судно за то, что он не заплатил деньги. Неустойку должен был заплатить, то, что мы груз не взяли. И плюс за портовые сборы должен был заплатить. Он это не заплатил. Вот поэтому они арестовали до тех пор, пока он это оплатит. А нас 4 оставили в заложниках.
На судне?
Да. И вот мы там 10 месяцев мы там были.
А он вам как показался вообще? Просто...
Не знаю я, не знаю. Это мне было уму непостижимо, чтобы так бросить экипаж и не платить это все. Судовладельцы, им плевать на это все. По-честному. Им надо хапнуть деньги. А мы продали часть топлива, продали.
Сами?
Да. И на эти деньги наняли адвоката. 3 месяца суд шел. Выпустили вот.
Ну, а когда вас выпустили, тогда вы оставили борт, то есть вы оставили судно и груз там как вообще?
Нормально, хорошее состояние. Мы закрыли все помещения на замки, повесили замки. Ключи я дал в immigration officer в порту, который нас выпускал. Вот так вот.
А по-вашему тогда просто, несчастный случай тогда получается, да?
Поскольку власти Бейрута знали, что груз опасный, что ему нельзя находиться в порту, так они должны были, по идее, еще дать ему пару сотен тысяч долларов, чтобы он только забрал это судно. Чтобы не было у них головной боли в порту. А они его не отпустили. Это что, разумно? Я понимаю, они хотели взять деньги. Но если бы они знали, что такой взрыв будет, они бы этого не сделали. Груз опасный. Всегда может взорваться, знает.
This event has been going on since
So yeah, I did not expect to see that when I woke up earlier. That stuff. So that's the captain of the ship that brought that material to Lebanon. As he said, they came to Lebanon to try to make some additional monies so that they could continue on elsewhere, and ended up not being able to do so. And then when they got stuck because of money that was being asked to be paid, kind of just fell apart. So that's why it was confiscated in the first place. So that's kind of like, again, another symbol of how that country operates. Cash is king anywhere in the world, right? And when governments fail to work for the people, corruption begins to put its tentacles into every part of a country. And in this instance, the port authorities wouldn't let the ship leave and wouldn't let these people leave because they wanted to get paid a certain amount of money. And so here we are, however many years later, and people's lives are absolutely upended, you know. So it's unfortunate that it's happened in that way. And so anyways, I wanted to share that story because I want everyone at home to be thinking of the Lebanese people at this time. I want everyone to I'm going to share a document on Facebook. I'll try to put it in the comments of all the other things as well. It's a document of NGOs that are assisting people on the ground. If you plan to give anything to the people of Lebanon to aid, and also remember, the Lebanese people, the country has opened its borders to the Palestinian people and to the Syrian people as well. So, you know, there's a bunch of people in this place now who need a lot of help. And if I'm not mistaken, 50% of the Lebanese people live below the poverty line, or the people in Lebanon live below the poverty line already. So this is a big devastating thing. You know, we had coronavirus happening. Then there's an economic problem there. Their currency has been devalued like astronomically. Their money is pegged to the dollar. It used to be 1,500 Lebanese lira to $1, $1 American dollar. And now it's upwards of 5, 6, 7, 8,000, depending on where you go and what the exchange rate is on who you're getting it from. So you have to imagine these people are in a tough place. But the Lebanese will tell you that they're resilient. And my experience for the time that I spent there was just that. So it's like a rose that grew from the concrete kind of vibe. So if you're going to help, which I would implore everyone to do, please do your due diligence as far as the organizations that you're going to submit your donations to. But know that it's definitely going to a good place. So thank you everyone for joining me today on another episode of the DA Perspective. Yeah, I hope everybody's in as good a spirits as they can be. And as always, I may not always be correct, but at least I started the conversation. Thank you so much for your time.